My name is Sora. I'm 28 years old, and I've been living in Seoul for 5 years now. But my story doesn't start here. It starts in Hamheung, North Korea, where I grew up with my little brother Minjin. People always ask me what it was like growing up there, and I never know how to answer. Because for us, it was just life. We didn't know any different. My grandfather worked in China. He had connections with the foreign currency shops, the places where you could buy electronics, makeup things from Japan and China that most North Korean families could never afford. We were lucky. We had a television. We had a refrigerator that actually worked. My mother had lipstick from Japan. Small things that meant we were different from our neighbors. Because of this, my parents could afford to give us something rare: music education. I started learning piano when I was 7. Minjin started accordion when he was 6. Every afternoon after school, we would sit in our small living room and practice, while our mother listened from the kitchen, humming along. Those were good days, simple days, before everything got complicated. I need to tell you something about myself that I'm not proud of. I was a terrible sister. No, that's not quite right. I was a strict sister, an angry sister, a sister who thought discipline and love were the same thing. Minjin was wild as a child. He'd skip his accordion practice to play soccer with his friends. He'd come home with dirty clothes and scraped knees, grinning like he'd had the best day of his life. And I'd be furious, not because he was having fun, but because I was terrified. Terrified that he wasn't preparing for the future, terrified that he'd fall behind. In North Korea, falling behind means disappearing, so I became his disciplinarian. Our parents worked constantly, my mother helping my grandfather's business, my father at his government job. Someone had to make sure Minjin stayed on track, and that someone was me. 15 years old and already playing the role of mother. I kept a fly swatter in the kitchen, one of those plastic ones with the long handle. When Minjin didn't practice, when he talked back, when he forgot his homework, I'd chase him around the apartment with it, the sound of his feet running, his voice pleading Nuna. No. I'll practice. I promise. And then the sharp crack of plastic against his legs. He'd cry, I'd feel guilty, but I'd tell myself it was necessary. The worst part. 5 minutes later, I'd go to his room with snacks. I'd sit on his bed and ruffle his hair and kiss his cheeks, telling him how much I loved him, how proud I was when he did well. And he'd look at me with these confused, hurt eyes, like he couldn't understand how the same person could hit him and hug him within minutes of each other. I couldn't understand it either, honestly, but that's how I showed love. With one hand, discipline, with the other hand, affection. I thought that's what parenting was, what protecting someone meant. He hated my affection. God, he hated it. When I'd try to kiss his cheek, he'd wipe it off dramatically and run away. When I'd hug him in public, he'd squirm and complain that his friends were watching, but I couldn't stop myself. He was so precious to me, my baby brother with his round face and innocent smile. I wanted to hold on to him forever, even as he kept trying to pull away. Looking back now, I see a scared teenage girl, trying to control the only thing in her life she thought she could control. But back then, I just thought I was doing my job. Being a good older sister meant being tough. It meant preparing him for a harsh world. Everything changed when Minjin turned 13. There was an incident, a fight. He came home one evening with his shirt torn, blood on his knuckles, a bruise forming under his left eye. My mother screamed when she saw him. I dropped the plate I was washing, but Minjin was smiling, actually smiling, like he'd just won something important. The story came out slowly. Some boys from another neighborhood had been bullying his friend, 12 of them against Minjin and his friend, and somehow, impossibly, Minjin had fought them off. All of them. He had this scar on his hand. You can still see it today, from where someone's teeth caught his knuckle. But he'd won. My mother wanted to punish him, lock him in his room, forbid him from seeing those friends. But I saw something different in Minjin's eyes that day. Pride, confidence. He'd discovered something about himself, that he was strong, that he could protect people, that he wasn't a little boy anymore. And I realized, standing there in our kitchen looking at my bleeding, smiling brother, that I'd lost something. Control, authority. He wasn't afraid of me anymore. The next time I threatened him with the fly swatter, he just looked at me, didn't run, didn't flinch, just looked at me with these steady eyes that said, "I'm not scared of you anymore, Nuna." I put the fly swatter away that day, never picked it up again, because what was the point? He'd outgrown me, outgrown my methods, and part of me was relieved, part of me was proud, but another part, the part that had defined myself as his protector, his disciplinarian, that part felt lost. Who was I if I wasn't the strict older sister? When Minjin was 15, he won first place in a regional accordion competition. It was a big deal. Competitors came from all over Hamheung, even some from Pyongyang, and my baby brother, the one I'd had to force to practice for years, stood on that stage and played beautifully, perfectly. The judges gave him the highest score. I cried watching him. Cried because I was proud, yes, but also because I realized all those years of strictness, all that discipline, had actually meant something. He was talented, genuinely talented, and maybe, just maybe, I'd helped him discover that. After the ceremony, we went out for noodles, a rare treat. Minjin couldn't stop smiling, couldn't stop looking at his trophy. And I felt this overwhelming rush of love for him, this need to give him something, promise him, something that would show him how proud I was. So I made a promise. I said, "Minjin, when you turn 18, I'm going to buy you the best motorcycle in Hamheung, the nicest one money can buy. Chrome details, powerful engine, everything." His eyes went so wide. He grabbed my hands across the table. "Really? You promise, Nuna? You really promise?" And I promised. Absolutely, completely promised. I can still see his face from that day. Pure joy, pure trust. He believed me completely. Why wouldn't he? I was his older sister. I'd never lied to him before. For the next year, he talked about that motorcycle constantly, what color he wanted, where he'd ride it, how jealous his friends would be. He practiced his accordion even more, thinking maybe if he got even better, I'd buy him the motorcycle sooner. I let him dream. I encouraged his dreams. Because I was dreaming too, dreaming of being the sister who could give her brother the world, the sister who could make all the strictness, all the hitting, all the tears, worth it with one grand gesture. I had no idea that I'd never get the chance to keep that promise, not in the way I'd imagined. In 2019, everything fell apart. My grandfather's business ran into problems, the kind of problems that, in North Korea, can destroy a whole family. The foreign currency shop connections dried up, money became tight, and suddenly, the comfortable life we'd always known felt precarious. I was 23 years old. Minjin was 16, and I made a decision that I knew would break his heart. But I convinced myself it was the only way. I decided to escape to South Korea. Alone. The plan was simple in theory, impossible in practice. I would go first, establish myself in South Korea, earn money, and then bring my mother and Minjin over safely. It would take time, maybe a year or two, but it was better than all of us trying to escape together and risking getting caught. I didn't tell Minjin the truth. I couldn't. He was too young, too trusting. If he knew, he might accidentally tell someone, or worse, he might try to stop me. So I lied to my baby brother. I told him I was going to China for business with my grandfather. 2 weeks, maybe a month. I promised I'd bring him back something nice. The morning I left, he hugged me at the door. He said, "Bring me back something cool, Nuna." And I said I would. Then I walked away, down the street, around the corner, and I didn't look back. Because if I'd looked back, I would have run back to him. And I couldn't. I had to save us, even if it meant leaving him behind. The journey was hell. China first, hiding in safe houses, paying bribes to people who might turn you in at any moment. Then Laos, traveling in the back of trucks with other defectors. Then Thailand, living in a detention center, while we waited for South Korean embassy approval. Every step of the way, I thought about Minjin, wondered if he was angry at me yet, wondered if he'd figured out I wasn't coming back. I arrived in South Korea in November 2019. They took me to Hanwon, the resettlement center where all North Korean defectors go. 3 months of learning about South Korean society, democracy, capitalism, all these concepts that felt like fairy tales. And the whole time, all I could think about was the promise I'd broken, the motorcycle I'd never bought, the brother I'd abandoned.